Today is Wednesday, April 13th, 2016, and the title of this rant is The White House Intervenes in Maryland Senate Democratic Primary. Now, I normally don't like to get involved in local elections, but the White House intervened in this. A little back up here. Congresswoman Donna Edwards is running for the Senate in Maryland. She is a current congresswoman against Chris Van Hollen, who is also a current congressman in Maryland running for the Senate. So the ad was against Chris Van Hollen. It basically talked about that he had worked with the NRA in some legislation in 2010 that never got enacted. And Donna Edwards didn't do it herself. It was through one of her PACs. I think she's being supported by Emily's List, Daily Kos, a couple others, and basically railed against Congressman Chris Van Hollen for endorsing that legislation. So let's go back to 2010 when all this was going on. And of course, the White House asked Donna Edwards and her campaign and the PAC to take it down. They said that they would. But why did it happen? Well, back in 2010, there was some legislation to try and identify dark money, get rid of dark money, something like that. I don't know. I don't want to grasp all the details. It's too long. And, when you pass legislation, you have to have compromises. You had to have some Republican support for this. Now, it was going to identify some dark money in there. The NRA basically said, help us out. We'll endorse this end. Now, at the same time, the Chamber of Commerce was against that because they didn't want their dark money to be exposed. So, there was some give and take that was going on in there. And the White House, Chris Van Hollen, the Democratic leadership, all agreed that this is what they would do. So the example would be this legislation in terms of what would happen with dark money would help about this much. Now, I said you got to compromise, so you got to take some of the good with the bad, and the bad would be about this much, let's just say. So it was overall favorable. Now, Republicans didn't want to vote for it, and about 30 Democratic congresspeople did not want to vote for it, including Donna Edwards. Now, if the NRA had come out against it, it wouldn't have even gotten out of the Democratic House at that time because many more Democrats would not want to run in the upcoming election against the NRA. So again, if you have something that's going to give you this much of a benefit, and you have to take a little bit of this in the meantime, politics is a dirty, dirty game. Van Hollen was part of the leadership team. Pelosi's right-hand man, I think he was third in the House. Pelosi, the other guy from Maryland, I can't think of his name, Steny Hoyer, and then Chris Van Hollen. And he had moved up pretty quickly. Now, Hollen's campaign has been basically railing against, because it's a close election. The Washington Post had a week or so ago, Donna Edwards up by 4 points. A recent one came out showing Van Hollen up by 6 points. Donna Edwards is black. Chris Van Hollen is white. You have that dynamic that's going on right there. For 100 years, the center of Maryland was Baltimore, and now it's shifted towards the Washington area. So Montgomery County is all white. That's mostly where Chris Van Hollen was represented. Donna Edwards represented Prince George's County, which is has wealthy blacks in that county. And then, of course, Baltimore is not quite as in play, of course, because the Baltimore County is now all white. Baltimore City is all black. We have a big dynamic for all of that. It's a dirty campaign, but basically, Donna Edwards is indicating Chris Van Hollen is a compromiser, and I will never compromise. At the same time, by never compromising, she really has not put up if any, legislation or co-sponsorships of any legislation. I don't know how long she's been there, 6 or 8 years or something like that. And of course, Chris Van Hollen has moved up to the top. And so he's railing against her for absolutely no type of legislation, very ineffective. And she's railing against him because he's willing to compromise a little bit because there was a greater good to be had. And she just basically dismissed it because it wasn't everything that you wanted. And I would give the example right now. Sanders wants $15 an hour minimum wage. Hillary wants 12. Well, what if, we accelerated the minimum wage so it got to be 12 real quick, and then hopefully municipalities and cities and states would raise it up to 15 shortly thereafter. Because as an example, in New York City or in New York, it's going to be raised to $15 an hour by 2018, whereas in California, it's also going to be raised to $15 an hour, but by 2022. So the question is, are you going to not take $12 an hour because you can't get 15? You got to compromise somewhere sometimes. I'm not say that I'm not in favor of 15. I am. But let's be realistic. This may not go through, and the Republicans may want to string it out till 2030 or whatever. But again, to be in politics, it's a dirty game. You got to compromise. You have to promote legislation, which Donna Edwards does not appear to do. And Chris Van Hollen, is a team player in the sense that, he had, when the White House says this is what we want, hey, we got to rally our troops to get it. So a big thing. But the White House then went in and said to Donna Edwards and the Super PAC, please do not air this ad again. Election is, I guess, next Tuesday. Is it? The primary is Maryland and Pennsylvania, I think, are next Tuesday. So less than a week to find out about that. We'll see if Donna Edwards drops it, see if Chris Van Hollen comes through, whatever happens. But again, it really is sort of strange that you would use, that the White House would intervene in a Senate Democratic primary and asking someone to drop their ad. Very significant.